My family replaced me with my ex, so I froze their assets, locked the accounts, and then I knew the divorce wasn't going to be clean, but I didn't expect to lose my damn family in the process. One day, I was married to Delilah. The next, she had her feet up on my mother's couch like she'd always belonged there. Meanwhile, I was told to call ahead before stopping by. It's been 15 months since the papers were signed, and we walked out of the courthouse like two people who couldn't look each other in the eye. But the fallout has felt more like a silent execution than any mutual ending. And what's worse is how eager everyone seemed to forget I was ever part of the family tree. My mom, Margot, has always had this subtle way of weaponizing politeness. Everything with her sounds like an invitation until it's actually an ultimatum. My cousin Troy, he floats through life like smoke, just goes wherever the breeze is easy. Aunt Becca plays the referee, but only when it protects her own peace. And my sister Claire, bless her, means well but folds the second anyone raises their voice above room temperature. That's my support network, if you can call it that. So when I noticed Delilah was still in the family group chat, the one we started after Grandma died, I chalked it up to oversight, until she started posting photos of pie tastings with Margot, captioned with inside jokes I wasn't even a part of when we were married. The real kick in the teeth was the invite to Thanksgiving, or rather, the terms of my invite. My phone rang on a gray Monday evening, and when I answered, I knew from the tone that this wasn't going to be an I miss you call. Margot started with small talk, but her voice had that breathy tightness that always meant she was gearing up to unload something disguised as concern. She finally said, "Nate, I need you to promise me that if you come to Thanksgiving, you won't cause any tension or bring any of your moods." I laughed, not because it was funny, but because of the nerve. I hadn't seen any of them since midsummer, hadn't made a peep in the chat besides the occasional thumbs up, and somehow I was already labeled as the storm cloud. So I asked the obvious, why would I be the issue? She sighed, like she was dealing with a child instead of a grown man. Well, Delilah's coming, and she's been a real support system for all of us. I had to sit down when I heard that. Support? Like what? Helping you install your new password manager. Baking cookies while Troy cries about his third failed engagement? Apparently so, because Margot went on to explain how Delilah had really stepped up, had been helping around the house, teaching Becca to organize her pantry, and just being there when I needed someone. I interrupted. "You mean someone who doesn't call out your BS?" She didn't like that. She hung up. It's funny how quickly you can go from family to outsider when you stop playing along. I stared at my phone for 5 minutes after that call, wondering what exactly I had done besides divorce someone who, for the record, didn't want to be with me either. I texted Troy and asked, "Is this real?" She actually said I could come if I behave. His response? "Don't make it about you. Delilah's been through a lot too." Through what exactly? A slightly delayed kitchen remodel? I figured maybe Claire would be the one person with her feet still on the ground. She picked up on the second ring and didn't even ask how I was doing. Just said, "Look, I know it's awkward, but Delilah's just easier to be around. She listens, she shows up, she doesn't challenge anything." I asked if that meant I should roll over and let them rewrite the whole damn narrative. Claire said, "Maybe just let them have peace this year. You know how Mom is." Yeah, I know exactly how Mom is. She likes people who pretend her passive aggression is just Southern charm. So Thanksgiving rolled around, and I did what I said I would. I stayed home, ate microwave leftovers, and watched other people's families fight over undercooked turkey on YouTube. But what I wasn't ready for was the photo Claire posted that night. Full table, matching place cards, and right at the center, Delilah holding Margot's hand like the daughter she always wanted. There was even a little name card where I used to sit. It was empty, not subtle, not accidental, just pure erasure. That's when I started keeping track, not in some obsessive way, but just to stay sane. Every time Delilah posted about teaching Margot how to use her smart speaker, I made a note. Every time I saw her in a group pic organizing a cabin trip I used a run point on, I added it. When I found out she now had access to the family Amazon account and was ordering groceries on Margot's behalf, I nearly laughed. If I wasn't watching it happen, I'd think I was losing my mind. And here's the worst part. I'm not even mad at Delilah. She's always been like this. She knows how to mold herself into whoever people need her to be. She listens, nods, coos at the right time. You say your dog died. She'll show up with a photo book and a baked casserole, even if she didn't like your dog. But my family? They're the ones who chose convenience over loyalty. I was the one who fixed the roof of the cabin, the one who drove Claire back and forth to community college for 2 years, the one who helped Margot with her online banking every damn month. But now, because I don't sugarcoat things or pretend everything's fine, I'm the problem. It's a bizarre feeling to watch people you grew up with fall in love with the edited version of your ex-wife. But that's what's happening. I'm watching from the sidelines as they give her my spot, my routines, my damn login credentials. I'm not about to start a war over a shared Netflix account, but I'm also not going to sit here and let them write me out like a bad plot twist. They want easy? Fine. But they don't get to have easy and me at the same time. Not anymore. I didn't think it could get worse after being told to sit down and shut up at Thanksgiving, but apparently losing your chair at the table was just step one in the family memory wipe. I tried ignoring it, figured if I just gave it space, they'd realize how out of line they were, maybe even remember who I actually was before Delilah baked her way into sainthood. But the thing about being erased isn't just about the invites you don't get. It's in the way your absence becomes the new normal, like you were never necessary in the first place. The first real sign that things weren't just accidental came when I noticed Delilah had practically moved into the group chat for the family cabin up at Lake Madison. That cabin's been in the family since I was 10, handed down from my grandmother, and split 3 ways between me, Claire, and Troy after she passed. For years, I was the one fixing leaks, dealing with the local handyman, keeping the power from being shut off when Claire forgot to pay her third. Now, suddenly, I'm scrolling through messages about summer plans I wasn't even consulted on, decisions made without so much as a "hey, you in?" from anyone. Delilah was in there like she'd been born into the bloodline, talking about what weekends were available, throwing around quotes from contractors like she'd been given the keys to the place. Claire was even sending her photos of new decor ideas, and Troy was giving her thumbs-up emojis like she'd just solved climate change. And me? I was watching it all unfold with my name nowhere in sight, like some ghost haunting a place I still technically owned a third of. So I texted Troy and asked what the hell was going on. He replied with his usual non-committal energy, said Delilah was just helping out, that I seemed busy all the time, and everyone liked her energy. I reminded him that I co-owned the damn property, and maybe someone should have bothered to ask if I was okay with my ex deciding how he spent the summer. He hit me with a shrug emoji. That's his thing. He reacts like it's all a joke until it stops being funny, and by then it's already too late. I tried Claire next. She answered, voice already tired, like she'd been dreading the call. I asked why no one thought to include me in the cabin planning, and she said, I told them it felt weird, but no one wanted to rock the boat. Mom said it's just easier when Delilah's involved. I told her it's not about easy, it's about respect. She said, I know, Nate, but everyone's tired of arguing. You come off aggressive. And Delilah just doesn't. That right there said everything. Apparently, being direct is now considered aggressive, while being manipulative wrapped in politeness is the family ideal. I went back through every message, every conversation, every instance where my role had been quietly reassigned to someone who'd signed divorce papers less than 2 years ago. Delilah had become the default for everything I used to do, and not one person had the decency to say it out loud. I wasn't even mad at her anymore. She was just doing what she always does. Smile, nod, insert herself where people need someone who doesn't push back. But my family? They let her. Then it got financial. One day, I found out from a friend of Troy's, because no one tells me anything directly anymore, that Delilah was now helping Margot with her bills. Like full-on access, passwords, account details, all of it. That used to be my thing. I set those accounts up for my mom years ago when she couldn't figure out how to download her bank app. And now I'm finding out that Delilah's been handling payments and setting up autopay, like she's the one who stuck around during the hard years. So I called Margot, asked if this was true, and she acted like I was the crazy one for caring. Said Delilah was trustworthy, that she makes me feel in control and never judges me. I asked what that made me. Then, some tyrant who forced her to look at a spreadsheet once a month. She told me, if you don't like it, you can come over and help, but only if you're going to be nice for once. That's when I realized I wasn't even allowed to show up unless I played the part of a guest in my own family. I started saving screenshots. not just for receipts, but for clarity. Because when gaslighting comes dressed as family tradition, it's easy to start doubting yourself. I made folders, labeled them by month, and anytime Delilah planned something with them that I wasn't included in, I logged it. Not to be petty, but to stay sane. If they were going to pretend I didn't exist, I needed to have a record of who I used to be in this family before I got edited out. Then Becca messaged me, asked if I could sign off on some cabin paperwork. She said it was just for utility streamlining, that Delilah was helping organize everything so it was less complicated. That's when I lost it. I asked since when Delilah had the authority to manage shared assets she had no legal claim to. Becca got defensive, told me I was being dramatic, that Delilah was just trying to help because you're always late with your end and you don't answer group messages. I pulled up every payment I'd made in the last 3 years, every on-time transaction, and told her to keep her accusations to herself. I said I wasn't signing anything without reading it, and she snapped. Full-on guilt trip. Said I was being difficult, creating problems, bringing negativity into something that was supposed to be simple. I told her simplicity doesn't mean handing over control to someone who isn't part of the agreement, no matter how many pies she bakes. After that, Claire texted me, said she was exhausted by all of it and didn't want to take sides. But by not picking one, she already had. Silence is a vote too, especially in families where everyone avoids confrontation like it's a terminal disease. I told her that next time anyone asked me to sign anything, they could do it in person and explain exactly what Delilah's role is in all of this. I wanted faces. I wanted accountability. So yeah, it's not just about some lake cabin or utility bills. It's about being slowly deleted while the people who are supposed to know you best pretend there's nothing wrong with replacing you. Delilah didn't take my spot. They gave it to her. And if they think I'm going to sit by while they rewrite the entire script of my life, they've got another thing coming. Next time they come knocking, I'm not answering with kindness. I'm showing up with everything I've got. You ever walk into a room where everyone looks surprised to see you, even though you technically helped build the damn house? That's what it felt like when I decided I'd had enough of being erased and called for a meeting, an actual sit down, no Delilah, no excuses, real face-to-face with the people who thought they could just replace me while smiling through it. I wasn't going to sit around documenting betrayal like it was some emotional scrapbook project. No, if they wanted to turn my life into a quiet exile, then they were going to have to do it to my face. I sent the message in the old cabin group chat, the one Delilah hadn't weaseled her way into yet, and kept it short but clear. We need to talk about the property, the money, and who's pretending to be a co-owner. Claire was the first to respond, hesitant as always, said she'd come only if it wasn't going to turn into a battle. I told her it was already a battle. I was just giving everyone a chance to explain themselves before I brought in the paperwork. Troy tried to ghost the thread entirely, dropped a half-assed, not really my circus line until I replied, "You're on the deed, genius, so yeah, it's your damn circus too." Becca didn't respond for 2 days, then finally texted me a passive-aggressive novel about how Delilah had been such a blessing and bridge builder for the family. And if I just learned to be less confrontational, maybe people would want me around more. I told her I'd bring printed documents and copies of every bank receipt showing I'd kept up with my share while Delilah played pretend homeowner. The meeting happened at Claire's because it was the only place neutral enough for anyone to show up without accusing someone else of stacking the deck. I came with folders, literal folders, 3 of them color-coded, labeled with names and dates, everything down to the timestamp of when Delilah first started answering emails meant for me. Claire was already there when I arrived, arms crossed, doing that tight smile she always does when she wants to seem objective but is one sigh away from snapping. Troy rolled in 20 minutes late, smelling like cheap cologne and making jokes about needing coffee like we were just catching up, not holding a tribunal. Becca came in last, acting like she was there for a root canal, not a conversation. I didn't waste time. I laid everything out on the table, figuratively and literally, and said, "This ends now. Delilah is not on the deed. Delilah is not on the accounts, and Delilah does not get to represent us like she is." I showed them the chat logs where she coordinated cleaning crews and landscaping decisions like she had voting rights. I handed out emails she sent to the utilities company, claiming to speak on behalf of the family. I even printed out the screenshots of her talking to contractors about approved budgets that no one had discussed with me. Troy tried to laugh it off at first, said, "She's just helping out. It's not like she's trying to steal anything." I snapped back that if someone used your login to rearrange your bank account, you wouldn't call a favor. Claire stayed quiet, eyes flicking between us, until I turned to her and asked why she never once flagged this in the chat. Her answer? Because no one else wanted to argue. And every time I try to be fair, I get dragged into a fight. I told her maybe the problem isn't the argument. It's that nobody else wants to admit they screwed up. That's when Becca lost it. Said I was being paranoid, that Delilah had only ever tried to help, that I was turning this into a witch hunt over a few emails. I told her it wasn't just emails. It was ownership, identity, and the fact that the only reason Delilah got this far is because no one had the guts to tell her to back off. Becca stood up, shoved her chair back, and said she wasn't going to be yelled at in her own family. Then she walked out without another word. Troy tried to follow her, said maybe it was best to just let things settle, but I blocked the door. Not hard, not aggressive, just stood there and said, "You walk now, you don't come back until a lawyer calls you." He tried to shove past, but I didn't budge. I told him that if they wanted to turn me into a ghost, I'd become one with a ledger and a lawyer. I reminded them I had the right to freeze access to the cabin account, halt any repairs, shut down any rentals, and even restrict access to utilities if it came to that. Troy looked pissed, said I was taking it too far. I said, "You already took it too far. I'm just taking it back." Then Claire pulled out her phone, said she didn't want to do this, but had gone too far. She opened a chat none of us had seen before, some new thread she was added to a few weeks back. It was Delilah coordinating with Becca and Troy, talking about how I wasn't really involved anymore, how it would be cleaner to do things without me, how she could cover until I faded out. My name was in those texts like a character they'd written out of the script. Troy tried to say it wasn't like that, but Claire cut him off, said, "Don't." You knew. The room went quiet. Not in a peaceful way, but in a heavy, loaded, everything is broken kind of way. Then Becca walked back in, like she just needed a moment to pretend she still had control. She said if I wanted to make things hard, she'd call the lawyer who handled Grandma's estate and see how I liked it when the cabin went into full legal review. I told her to go right ahead. I had folders. I had facts. I wasn't bluffing. Claire tried to mediate, said maybe we should create some kind of structure, some rules moving forward. Suggested that Delilah be explicitly left out of any future decisions, and that any financial moves require full approval from the actual owners. I nodded. Troy mumbled something about not wanting drama, but agreed. Becca didn't speak again. I stood up, grabbed my folders, and told them all, "You made this mess the second you decided I was disposable. I'm just making sure you remember I still exist." As I walked out, Troy tried to block me again. I shoved past him, not hard but firm enough to say we're done playing brothers when you've been acting like strangers. I got in my car, didn't look back, didn't check my phone, didn't second guess a single word. Because when your own family hands your seat to someone who watched you burn and brought marshmallows, you don't ask for it back. You build a new table and lock the damn door. I gave it 5 days. 5 full days of silence after that disaster of a family showdown where everyone tried to pretend I was the villain for calling out the obvious. I waited, thinking maybe someone would break character long enough to admit they screwed up, that they let my ex-wife play replacement like it wasn't completely insane. But the only thing I got was radio silence from the people who used to show up at my front door just to borrow a socket wrench or crash on the couch after a breakup. They all disappeared the second I stopped making it convenient to erase me. Troy didn't say a word, no texts, no calls, not even one of his usual dry memes to test the waters. Becca, of course, went straight to Facebook and posted one of her signature cryptic statuses about family being more than blood and how some people never grow out of high school drama. Claire messaged me once, just said, "That was a lot. Hope you're okay." I didn't answer. I wasn't okay, but more than that, I was done waiting for someone else to do the right thing. If they weren't going to fix it, I would. And I wasn't going to play nice about it anymore. I started with the cabin because that was the one thing they couldn't legally push me out of, even if emotionally they'd already packed my bags for me. I pulled every document, Grandma's will, the co-owner agreement we signed years ago, old maintenance logs, copies of every payment I'd made since we inherited it. Then I called the management office that handles our property taxes and utilities and told them to freeze all pending changes. No more maintenance scheduling, no bookings, no vendor approvals unless it came directly from me or was signed by all three owners. They didn't argue. They just updated the file and sent a confirmation email to everyone on record. Then I sent the email. No intro, no pleasantries, just one clean paragraph with the freeze notice attached. Due to unauthorized third-party involvement and repeated exclusion of one co-owner, all cabin activity is suspended until further notice. No actions will be recognized without my written consent. Delilah has no authority to act on behalf of the family. Act accordingly. I CC'd Claire, Troy, and Becca, then sat back and waited for the firestorm. It didn't take long. First came a call from my mother. Not a "how are you?" or "let's talk this through," but straight to, "why did you block Delilah's access?" She was helping me. I told her she could help herself by calling her actual son instead of outsourcing emotional labor to someone who left our marriage but stayed for the applause. She hung up, predictably, just like she always did whenever I said something she couldn't control. Second came a text from Troy, passive-aggressive and whiny, saying, "Thanks for ruining the trip. Everyone's pissed. Happy now?" I replied, "Happier than I've been watching you pretend I don't exist while Delilah runs my life like it's her Pinterest project." Becca's call came next. Full caps, full fire, full martyr complex. "How dare you mess with something that was never about you? Delilah was trying to help. She stepped up when you disappeared. I told her I didn't disappear, I was pushed. That I stopped showing up when I realized showing up meant watching everyone smile at someone wearing my face like a mask." She ranted for another 5 minutes, accusing me of turning on my family, of being petty and controlling and vindictive. I waited until she ran out of steam, then told her the only thing I was doing was restoring balance to a situation they thought I was too passive to challenge. She hung up too. Then came Delilah. First it was a text. "Can we talk?" I didn't respond. Then a longer one. "I don't know what's going on, but I never meant to hurt you. This is affecting everyone, and I just want to fix it." I didn't respond to that either. Then she tried calling. I let it ring, then blocked her. Not because I was afraid of what she'd say, but because I already knew what it would be. A long, syrupy explanation about how she just wanted to help, how she was trying to keep things smooth, how my family needed stability. But the truth is, she didn't help. She replaced. And now she was upset that I'd finally put up a wall she couldn't decorate with throw pillows and fake smiles. By the end of the week, the group chat was in shambles. Claire texted me and said she was exhausted by all of it, that she didn't even want to use the cabin anymore if it meant everyone was going to be at each other's throats. I told her she was welcome to her portion as long as she respected the boundaries, but I wouldn't be participating in anything that included Delilah or required me to pretend things hadn't happened the way they did. She said, "Honestly, I get it. I'm tired of being stuck in the middle." A few days later, I walked past my mom's house on my evening run. Her car was there. Becca's wasn't. Delilah's wasn't. The porch light was on, but no one waved from the window like they used to. I didn't stop. I didn't slow down. I just kept running because the only thing worse than being betrayed is being asked to come back and pretend you weren't. They wanted simple. They wanted easy. They wanted someone who didn't say, "Hey, this hurts," because that would ruin their tidy little setup. But life isn't a tidy setup, and I'm not going to vanish just because my presence makes them uncomfortable. I didn't break any laws. I didn't scream or threaten or trash anyone's property. I just used my rights, my actual, legal, documented rights, to say, you don't get to write me out of this story and keep the parts that are convenient. So yeah, the cabin trip's canceled. The group chat is quiet. The whole charade of Modern Family, with Delilah in the spotlight, is cracking down the middle. And honestly, I feel lighter than I have in months. For the first time, I don't feel like I'm waiting for an apology that's never going to come. They thought they could cut me out with polite smiles and quiet meetings. They thought I wouldn't push back because I never have before. But now they know the truth. I was never the problem. I was just the only one telling the truth. After the freeze, the silence stretched like a warning shot hanging in the air, And for once, nobody tried to break it with jokes or guilt trips or casual little texts pretending we were still some happy. Functional group. I thought someone would try to smooth it over with a fake apology or a watered-down explanation that blamed the stress or confusion. But instead, they just shut their mouths and hoped I'd come to my senses on my own. They underestimated how much clarity comes when you stop letting people walk all over you for the sake of keeping peace that never existed. The cabin remained locked down. No one could book a date or approve a repair without contacting me first. And I wasn't approving anything until they acknowledged that Delilah was not part of this family's property, finances, or future. I took my name off every joint account she ever touched, notified the bank to flag any unauthorized access, and made damn sure every password had been changed twice. Margot tried logging into something Delilah set up and called me in a rage when it didn't work. I told her I wasn't her tech support anymore, and she'd have to learn how to deal with things herself or call the woman she trusted more than her own son. Claire texted me again, asked if I'd really blocked Delilah from everything, and when I said yes, she just responded, "Honestly, I'm relieved." She told me she'd been too afraid to speak up because she didn't want to end up cut out the same way I was. I said, then maybe it's time we stop being afraid of people who think love comes with conditions and control. She agreed to meet with me to figure out a new way to handle the cabin moving forward. One that didn't involve backroom decisions or unauthorized management from people who didn't belong in the equation. Troy finally cracked. Sent me a long string of messages, starting with excuses and ending with a desperate plea. You win. The trip's ruined. Everyone's mad. Can we please just go back to normal? I told them that normal ended the moment they decided it was easier to let Delilah rewrite family history than admit what they were doing was wrong. He said, "You didn't have to go nuclear." I replied, "You didn't have to sell me out." He didn't answer after that. Becca went quiet too, but I saw the passive-aggressive updates online. One photo of her porch with the caption, "At least some people know how to show up." Another about how some people use legality as an excuse for revenge. I didn't comment, didn't reply. I didn't need to. The facts were already doing the talking. And when Delilah tried again, one final text that said, "I'm sorry, I didn't realize how much this would hurt you. I didn't even bother opening it." I blocked the number for good. That weekend, I passed Margot's place again on my run. Her car was still there, but no one else's. No Delilah, no Becca, no fake smiles from the front steps. I kept going because there was nothing left for me to do there anymore. If they wanted me back, it wasn't going to happen through pity or carefully crafted scripts that made me feel like a guest in my own bloodline. I know some people reading this probably think I went too far or that I burned bridges I should have walked across later with grace and understanding. But here's what I've learned. If you let people replace you once without consequence, they'll do it every time. It's easier than dealing with their own discomfort. If I had just let it slide, if I kept being quiet, kept showing up like nothing was wrong, I would have vanished completely. They would have smiled through it. They would have toasted to new traditions while pretending I was too busy or too distant to care. The truth is, I care more than any of them were willing to admit. I was the one who showed up when the water heater broke, when the tax forms got lost, when the car broke down 2 towns over. But I stopped saying yes to everything, and that made me expendable. Delilah was easy. She never said no, never made them uncomfortable. And for that, they were willing to give her everything I used to be. Well, not anymore. Now, they get to live with the version of events they created, and I get to live with the one I finally took control of. I didn't break the rules. I enforced them. I didn't destroy the family. I just stopped pretending betrayal was normal. And if they want me in the picture again, it's going to be on my terms, not theirs. So yeah, maybe I'm the villain in their story now. But for the first time, I'm the hero in mine.